If you've spent any amount of time in the headphone space, you've probably come across the Audio-Technica M50Xs at some point. These have been proclaimed as some of the best headphones for the money by many, but if you ask audiophiles and tech gurus, they're actually unnecessarily polarizing. Some say that they're overrated and sound like garbage. I don't really agree with that. Some say they're as good as headphones get. I don't agree with that. And some say because they're studio monitors, they're tuned perfectly flat and neutral, and that's where their value lies. I don't really agree with that either. You can't really pigeonhole these into any one category, and I'll get into that in a second. First, some quick specs. These are wired closed-back headphones with 45mm drivers. The frequency response spans from 15 Hz to 28,000 Hz, and they're easy to drive with an impedance of 38 ohms. Now, they don't have Bluetooth or active noise cancellation, but there is a wireless version of these out there. Somehow in the 8 years of owning these, I've never thrown away the box. It comes packed in a nice hefty box, but as this is clearly a fake unboxing, I'm not going to go through the trouble of repacking everything. I really like the minimalist styling. Audio-Technica definitely has their own aesthetic. These come with a nice carrying pouch, but not a case. They also include 3 cables, a 3-meter coiled, 3-meter straight, and 1.2-meter straight. I like the choices they give you. There's also a 1/4-inch adapter. Overall first impressions are good. If these are your first quote-unquote real headphones, then you're going to be pleased. Your first pair of good headphones are always an experience, and these are no different. Now, the build quality is very solid. It's mostly made from plastic, but most headphones in this range are. The earpads and headband are a comfortable pleather, but as you can see, I've used mine so much that they're starting to deteriorate. Not necessarily a knock on these. This will happen to any pair of headphones that use this type of material, but the ear cups are replaceable. The cable connector is a good design with a strain relieving locking mechanism, but this does mean that you could only use their proprietary cables. Speaking of cables, they're nice, thick, and of good quality. Overall, these are well made and should last you a long time. They swivel flat, which is useful for DJs or just slinging around your neck. They also fold for portability. Now, these headphones are comfortable for long periods of time, even with me using glasses, but they do get a little bit warm around the ears, but that's kind of par for the course for most closed-back headphones. They do expand quite a bit if you have a larger head, but I have heard that if you have larger ears, the ear cups are a little bit small and a bit shallow, so they might start to hurt after using them for a while. Setting these up, besides connecting the cable into the headphone, these are probably as easy as they get. There isn't any Bluetooth unless you get the Bluetooth version, so you will need a dongle if your phone doesn't have a headphone port. These don't require a headphone amp to get good sound out of them, but you will get a boost in quality if you do choose to run them through an amp. So there is a bit of a debate on whether or not you need to allow these headphones to burn in or break in. Personally, I find brand new M50s to be a little bit harsh on the top end, a little bit anemic in the low end. I found that to be the case with multiple friends getting these. After some use, the sound will fill out. Now, whether that's the actual drivers burning in or the ear cups breaking in, these will sound better after a few days of use. So how do they actually sound? This is the most important thing for headphones. The main impression that I get from these is they sound pretty good. They're clean and detailed, but I don't really get the sense that they lean too far towards being flat and neutral or super hyped. This brings me to the overall character of the sound, which is that it's balanced to fit multiple needs. So what they did here is that they took the flatness, neutrality, and accuracy of studio headphones and added a little bit of a consumer V-shaped curve to appeal to a larger audience. Let's dig a bit deeper. By the way, any and all songs that I mentioned can be primarily found in the Audiophile Arcade and Bass Testers playlists on Spotify. Link will be down in the description. So the bass is clean without feeling thin and lifeless, and it's full and punchy without being boomy and too wobbly. Sub-bass extension is good and doesn't roll off prematurely. Now, there is a bass boost that gives it a little bit more body than truly flat headphones, but it doesn't interfere or eat up space from the mids. The low end is well controlled and punchy, but there is kind of an odd boost in the upper bass region. So in a song like Angel by Massive Attack or Empire of Dirt by Eagoless, I'm not really straining to hear the sub frequencies like I end up having to do with some other headphones. They're just kind of there and blend well with the other instruments. Now, when I'm in the mood for some super heavy bass, I do feel like I want a little bit more in the low end and a little bit more warmth in songs like Bad Guy by Billie Eilish and Lito's remix of Feel It Still. But that is when I would need headphones that are specifically tuned and colored to be bass monsters. The bass is pleasing, but we gotta be honest here. It's pleasing to a lot of people because of its boosted nature. The mid-range is clean and blends well. Now, these are not mid-forward headphones. Mid-forward headphones will basically just throw the vocals and the bodies of instruments straight into your face, sometimes at the compromise of having less bass than what some people are accustomed to. Think Sennheiser 500 and 600 series headphones here. With these, there is a little bit of a dip in the lower mid-range, but other than that, it transitions nicely between all the frequencies. So with a song like Bad Guy, you would think that the bass would just completely mask out the mids, but that's not the case here. The vocals are still nice and prominent without compromising the bass. Other headphones that don't have as much control over the low end will just sound like it's just pushing the vocals down. In Something Everything by Sultan and Shepard, you could really hear the nuances of the vocals, especially the backing vocals that were panned hard to each side. It's also easy to pick up all the distortion in the various synths and the atmosphere of the track. Now, because of the bump in the upper bass, some may say that the mid-range is very recessed on these. I don't really think so. It's just pretty clean here. Now, the highs are clean and detailed, but not as consistent as the mids and lows. There is a dip in the mid-treble area that may negatively affect detail, but it's not really noticeable unless you're really listening for it. A few other peaks a bit higher up may sound a little bit sibilant, but it's not very offensive. The guitar attacks, the hi-hats, and the air in the vocals in Fleetwood Mac's Dreams comes through very nicely. There isn't an artificial amount of air to the sound, which some headphones might employ to give an enhanced sense of detail and clarity, but a lot of people will actually find that sound to be very harsh and sibilant, especially if it's poorly executed. So the sound is what I would characterize as clean and matter of fact, but with a bit of fun. They have a good sound, but isn't so hyped to the extent that what you hear is no longer real. Now, the soundstage and imaging is what I would have to resort to calling relatively average in the grand scheme of headphones, but that's only because some headphones have tiny sound stages and others have artificially massive sound stages. These don't have the super wide soundstage that you normally get with open back headphones, but they also don't have a super narrow and intimate soundstage either. It's somewhere in the middle and what I would just describe as real. Nothing is artificial here, and part of that is through design for studio applications, but also because of the limitations of what closed-back headphones could achieve. What you're left with is a sound that's relatively neutral enough for studio tasks, but not so boringly flat that it's no longer enjoyable to listen to. You're left with something real. Now, when I think about the intended audience, because it strikes such a balance between neutral and fun, I can really say that it's intended for everyone. However, the problem here is that when you try to appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to no one. It's good at everything, but not necessarily outstanding at any one thing. Bass heads might not find that it slams their head and whomps as much as they'd like, and audiophiles and engineers might not find that it's neutral or detailed enough to really call them reference headphones. And this is really the bottom line of these headphones. They're the jack of all trades, but master of none. Now, this isn't a bad thing, and in my opinion, it's a good thing, and my opinion is backed by many. These are still really good headphones that are really versatile. If you could only have one pair of headphones for both studio tasks and regular listening, these are probably some of the best ones out there. Now, I'll admit something. These days, I don't use these very often. I used to use these all the time. Nowadays, I'm usually just listening through my speakers, but when I am using headphones, I'm usually using one of my wireless pairs or my open back AKG K712s. I just have access to headphones that do certain things better. However, when I do need to check audio or if some friends ask me to check their mixes, these will come out with the rest because I trust their sound. These are workhorses. When I'm traveling around and I know that critical audio is going to be something that I'm going to be dealing with, these come with me. The one time I played a show in Vegas, these came with me on stage. I have a friend who produces almost exclusively on these because he lives in an apartment and he can't run his speakers all the time. If for some reason I had to get rid of all of my headphones and I could just keep one, I'd probably pick these in a heartbeat because they strike such a good balance between build, portability, comfort, sound quality, and being easy to drive without an amp. But most importantly, I trust the sound of these headphones. So if you need a jack of all trades headphones, the Swiss Army knife of audio, these are it. They sound great, they're built well, and you can find these for $170. Now, if you don't like the bass boosted sound or if you just want something that's a little bit flatter, I'm going to recommend that you look at the M40Xs instead. You do compromise a bit on build quality, but you get the Audio-Technica sound without the hype. Plus, they're substantially cheaper. So yeah, that's the Audio-Technica ATH-M50Xs. They're a good balance between clean, sort of neutral, but still fun to listen to. Thanks so much for watching. I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. See you next time.